How you doing? This is Joel from South, and you're listening to 88.5 WXPM Philadelphia, 90.5 WKHS Walton, Baltimore, member-supported non-commercial radio from the University of Pennsylvania. Woo!
I remember because me and Jay used to sort of go round to each other's houses and sort of spend the afternoon after school or whatever, and quite a lot of it came up from those little things where you'd just be running round chords. And
South started when we were 13 or 14.
We rehearsed at lunchtimes or after school. We rehearsed in Joel's basement, in Joel's bedroom, the local community centre. We made a racket.
And we'd just make noise, and we were like grunge band. So we were DM wearing long hair, crusty rips in all our clothes.
It was a good time to be into guitar music because before that guitar music wasn't seen as very cool, and then suddenly there was this big explosion of music that seemed to be coming out of Camden, the area we were growing up in.
We signed our publishing deal in 1998 on the day that England lost to Argentina in the World Cup.
There's a little bar in Soho called San Moritz, and we got a little residency there. I think it was 2 or 3 gigs. And that was the first time where I think we sat down and we did a much more acoustic-based thing. Within a week of that, it was like, well, we had a publishing offer from Warner Chappell, and we had these offers for the record side. And so it really was that moment of like, holy shit.
Bit of buzz, quite a bit of buzz, around the band, right up until we signed with Mowax.
Our manager, John Bryce, went in to have a meeting with James Lavelle about a drum and bass artist. And in that meeting, James was like, well, I'm really after a band. And John said, oh, I've got this thing. And these were our 4-track recordings. He played them to James, and it really chimed with him. And he gave us an offer of a record deal off the back of this one cassette that John took in, and there was about 5 tracks on it. Never saw us play.
We were sort of balancing up between whether we should sign with a major or we should sign with someone like a Mowax, which was more, maybe smaller but more interesting music. And we went with Mowax in the end.
And looking back now and thinking about it, that energy and attitude that we had then, that was like, it carried us right the way through to, making From Here On In. Working up all those ideas that you've been carving and moulding and seeing how they translate into the environment of a recording studio.
But we were approaching songs in a way we hadn't before, so we were having to rehearse in a way that we hadn't and construct them in ways we hadn't as well, because we were just exploring. So we spent 3 weeks recording the first track for the album, but then we kind of hit the ground running with the next one, and it was all in for nothing, and the way that we just started getting these soundscapes and things just started to fall into place. We had our confidence and we had one of those moments. A lot of it was recorded, as musicians together. That's what we did. It was quite a simple way of doing it. I get the core of the track down together as a band. I think by the time you catch your heart, we sat down for 2 hours and we just played it out with everyone in the room. And the take you hear on the record is that.
The collaboration aspect of being in South and me, Joel and Brett coming up with different melodies at different times and bringing it together.
I think that's part of why the record sounds the way it does. So we had a brilliant team in Wessex. There was Damien Taylor, the Pro Tools whiz, and this is a time when computers was in its infancy. Then you had Cameron Craig, who is an amazing engineer. So he was dealing with all the microphones and the actual recording side of it. But we also had additional musicians, friends like Will Harper, who had other skills to bring to the music. And then you had James Lavelle, who was co-producing it, and Rich File, who was James's partner and uncle at the time.
Stop a second.
We spent only 2 months of recording our album, and there was a month of recording the soundtrack to Sexy Beast. I think that came about through James Lavelle, who's friends with Jonathan Glazer, the director of the film. He said, we need a soundtrack, what can you do? We were like, yeah, we're just in the middle of an album, but we'll throw down tools and do this instead for 3 weeks. It sounds like fun. Start off with little loops, like maybe a 2-note bass line or a piano loop. And Damien would build up these loops that were going on for hours, and then we'd pick out bits of them. It was a good creative time for us.
Got to change my shirt, it's sticking to me, I'm sweating like
After recording the album, you've always got a period of about 6 months where they're preparing to release it, and you're rehearsing and trying to work out how you can play these songs live. And we toured from here on in, pretty much worldwide. I think we did Japan and Germany and UK and Europe, and you're just young men travelling the world having fun. Those are the best moments.
本当に別世界にふっと連れて行ってくれるような感じがするんですが、もうこの個性的な作品は一体どのようにして生まれたのか、いろいろ聞いてみたいなと。
We were out in Japan before we even released the album. I think we were in Tokyo, we were doing loads of press, like way more than we were doing here, and it was a little bit like, wow, this is mental.
I will never forget the Fuji Rock Festival. Just being backstage, waiting to go on. There was a huge roar, and I just remember, almost throwing up.
This is Joel from South, and you're listening to 88.5 WXPM Philadelphia.
did a co-headline tour of America with Elbow where we'd swap each night, and it was great because we really enjoyed Elbow's music.
I'd like to dedicate this song to them because they rule.
How you doing? This is Joel from South, and you're listening to U-Turn with Dave Marsh.
You're gonna be busy today. Are you gonna get a chance to actually see this city, or are you just gonna zoom around?
And America offered us much more exposure than we could get back in the UK. You look back at it now, and we were all moving together as one thing. The goal was clear, and the pieces were in place for us to be able to do it.
Just anything we wanted was basically given to us. Spend as long as you want, record as many songs as you want, here's as much budget as you want. It was quite a privileged period of music making.
All the work we had put in, it was rewarded. And I think looking back 20 years later, you kind of go, how lucky were we?
Listening to that record again, going back through the demos and the B-sides and remembering why we became that band. All those influences coming together slowly to become From Here On In, and yeah, you know, we'll always be South.